Okay, hi all, Peter here. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk to Marco. Now, before I bring Marco in, just a couple of things. This is a group therapy, and those sessions are usually quite a lot more interactive than normal webinars. But what I'd like to do this time, because we're going to go through a series of questions in the event, is just if you can hold the questions to the end, I would appreciate it. Now, Marco is somebody I started working with in May. And he's like a lot of you, he's somebody that's fitting trading around work. And when I met him, he was having a few struggles. And what I like about where we got to recently was he's just got over the problem that I see a lot of people have, which is they can't stick to their own plan. And it is a problem that I believe that when you get past it, it kind of fades away. Right. So there's a couple of reasons we're doing this right now is, first of all, because he's like you, a lot of you guys that are trying to trade around work. But secondly, is the issue is fresh in his mind, right? So the way I see this is that probably in a year's time or 2 years' time, Marco will probably not be able to tell anybody or explain in detail why he couldn't stick to his own plan. That's what I think. I'm not sure if I'm right, but it's just like a theory. Because whenever you meet traders, they can kind of generally elucidate why they struggled with trading, but you don't kind of get the detail, the kind of visceral detail as somebody that's going through it. And like, and you're talking to them saying, like, what was going through your head when you took that trade? I don't know. I just can't explain it. And then, so, we're doing this just after Marco has got through this. So as I said in the email, he's just got through this issue of trading off plan. And it's not like he's just had a week of trading on plan. He's passed a couple of valuation accounts, got some live accounts. Is he the best trader in the world at this point? No, but he's got over one of the most important plateaus. And I've known people that have, I tried to work with people for 6 months, a year, that have had this issue where they just can't get past this plateau. And I think some people can't get past it, but today the goal is to see if we can understand what happened with Marco. I haven't asked him any of the questions we've got today yet already, because I thought it was also better if we just ask him and he answers questions for the first time with us all there. It's a bit more real, I think, if we do that. So we'll talk about what the problem was, and then hopefully get to go through my questions. Just let me know. Can you all see my screen? Yes, good. So we'll go through my questions because I thought we had to start somewhere. And then obviously if there's more questions, then you can ask those because this is for your benefit. But do be gentle on Marco. Now, Marco, can you come on and see if you can share your video?
Hi, Pete. I think my video should be on already.
Right. So guys, can you see Marco or can you just see the screen, the web page? Okay, it might just, let me just, what I'll do is I'll make Marco the host. Spotlight for everyone. Right, is he, you can't see me. I haven't got a webcam at the moment. Is he there now? We haven't done this before.
Everyone. Yeah.
Okay. Right, so basically, Marco, do you just want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Marcos, and I am living in Oregon actually currently, and I've been trading for futures for about I want to say 3 years now, and I have a full-time job, so I trade for just in the morning. Living in Oregon, it's a West Coast time, so I'm able to actually get maybe an hour or two before I go to work. So here I am. I just want to thank Pete for inviting me to this session because, to be honest, it's a bit of a sudden, but I think it's a good time for me to kind of reflect back upon my journey and the questions that Pete has given me that opportunity to do that. So thank you, Pete.
Okay, so I guess thank you, Marcos, and it's great of you to do this. It's not an easy thing. So, question one: how long were you inconsistent not to plan?
So I think when I think about when I started with futures trading, about 3 years, Pete. I saw John Grady's YouTube video trading using Jigsaw back in August 2016, but I didn't get to purchasing his course until March 2018, and I purchased Jigsaw license from there. So from there, that was the start of the journey back in March 2018. And really, I haven't been I guess staying with the plan for that long, but it took me about 18 to 24 months to get comfortable with order flow trading. So I would say starting, what is that, like 2020, beginning of 2020, that's when I started to try to be more consistent, more profitable, but couldn't get to that point.
Okay, now just putting trading aside for 1 minute, how did that inability to stick to your plan impact you personally? Forget the trading side for a second.
Yeah, it's huge, I think. Just besides trading, I mean, I think being disciplined is an important trait for working out, for staying with your diet, right? And so it's definitely huge, because I can use what I have gained so far, with the skills of staying with the plan and sticking with and using that skill in other areas of my life. So.
And was this a rare thing for you to be able to not stick with something? Are you usually okay with that? With sticking to things?
I think it's pretty regular for me, to be honest. Like, for example, weight training, I would be, staying with the plan for a month, 2 months, and then all of a sudden I get lazy, right? And then I would be off track, and then I have to kind of rally myself again to actually get back to the regimen. So it's on and off for me in other parts of life, for sure.
Yeah. Now I'll just throw the question I didn't ask. How frequently were you going off plan? I know we have discussed it, but like, just for the audience.
Yeah, trading or
trading. Yeah, trading.
Trading. How often? I would say, every at times every 3-4 days. Other times would be after 2 weeks of winning trades, and then I would go off plan. And so that's a vicious cycle, just repeated over and over again.
And did you get what the impact of that was? Like, when it was happening, did you understand how that was holding you back?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't really understand it fully until I started talking to you. I really thought that the cause of my inconsistency was either my order flow reading skills, or some other trading psychology that I need to work on. But never crossed my mind that it's actually not staying on plan. And so the search continues until you actually brought up that subject, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. Now, that's an interesting one. We'll maybe just at this point throw a question to the crowd. For those of you, I guess it's 2 questions, and so maybe you can give me a yes or a no. If you've got this same issue, put a yes. If you had the issue for a while and didn't realize it, also put a yes. So you can put a yes if you got the issue, and a no, a no if you did realize it, and a yes if it was a mystery. Okay, yes, no. So a lot of people realize it, some people don't. Okay. So you might be a little bit different, because most people, it looks like, realized it. So, and we got somebody who doesn't realize it. Why did it persist?
I think it's a combination of a few things, to be honest, Pete. When I was looking back, I think it's a combination of the mechanics of trading, money management, and mindset. The 3 things there. Because if you remember, I had an issue at the start of our conversation that I didn't even know how to differentiate a range in a trending market as it's developing. And so when you did that webinar, I was actually studying that, and I thought, oh, that's great. Now I understand a little bit better. So I think not knowing that part alone caused me to go off plan as well. and of course, money management is the second thing, because I was not able to actually stay with the same lot size.
Mm-hmm.
And I would actually double down or I would triple down, and but also I think it's because I didn't think that the plan of the trade wasn't working. And so after I kind of, took care of those two, then I was able to actually focus more on the last piece, which is, staying on plan or this trading psychology part of it. So of course, that's why it's persisting, in my opinion, at least personally.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of that. I say, I remember I asked a question a while back about people coming to do these group therapies. And one of the questions I gave like I can't remember what the three different things were, but it was something like, how many of you, have one of these problems? And I said, number one problem is you don't have a plan. And number two is you can't stick to the plan. And a lot of people said yes to both. And I'm like, yeah, but I thought, how can you not stick to your plan if you haven't got a plan?
Yeah.
So part of it was, I mean, not understanding how to tell between a ranging and trading market. That is kind of improving your plan. It's not really about sticking to plan. It's about improving it, right? So, was it just? Did you get to a point? What gave you the confidence when you talk about the range and trending thing? What was it that gave you the confidence to stick to that?
That part, to be honest, your webinar, I think it took my understanding to a different level. Of course, this is after watching the market for these many years. But something that you mentioned in that webinar.
Can you just say which webinar? Can you remember?
That was the trend and range, trend versus range. You're talking about that. After break out of the range, there's a.
Is it the volume profile one? Sorry, is it the volume profile one?
It was a recent one. I forgot what the title was.
So we'll dig that out for all of you that are like thinking this is about selling a mystery webinar. Yeah, it's not. We'll dig that out. We'll dig that out at the end. So, but it was a webinar on trend and chop. Sorry, carry on.
No, but I think something you mentioned there about having correlated markets as well to help understand between the range and the trending market, because you mentioned that it's common sense that if you want to break a range of let's say a 30-year ZB, for example, 30-year treasuries, you need to be able to actually break the 10-year and the 5-year together for you to actually get a breakout. Yep. And so that gave me an idea of, okay, I need to actually trade with correlated markets. I can't just trade ZB by itself. So from then on, it actually helped me understand the market behavior a little bit better. And then having a plan after that, of course, and then staying with it is a little bit easier for sure.
Now it might not lose. I think John gave you that already though, didn't he? Didn't John Grady give you that already?
I'm sure it's a part of the course, but you know how it is. It's like building blocks, right? You don't know what you don't know until a certain point it just clicks, and that's I think what happened. And I wasn't able to trade with more than one dome until recently. So I was able to actually trade with 3 domes now. So the 10-year, 5-year, and 30-year. So that kind of helped me with my plan and trade and staying with the plan, to be honest.
Okay, so it sounds like part of it is understanding techniques, but and to be honest, I'm pretty sure that, because what I want to make sure is if there's people here that have come from John Grady, that they probably know that John does talk about correlations, and it is a lot to take in, and it is easy to drop stuff. And some questions are coming up. Did you? And let me give you an example of something that I see quite a lot. Programmers, working with programmers, it's like herding cats. And so we have a series of processes when you work with a programmer that kind of corrals them to the right behavior. But one of the things that amazes me is that when you teach a programmer something, when you give a programmer a design or specification, he'll read that at the start and he won't go back to it. What was, in terms of like your experience and your development, and again, I don't know the answer to this, how often did you go back to the education material you had just to check that you're actually doing what was taught?
I actually am one of those people that like to study.
Yeah.
So, and at a personal level, we don't have kids, so the free time that I get, apart from my wife, I would just do trading videos, right?
Yeah.
And so I would go back over and over again, and it has helped me, of course, finding out what's missing
Mhm.
from my understanding. And so I think recently, with especially, and this is not just marketing jigsaw, but what you have taught so far in terms of having common sense,
Mhm.
And what Grady has been preaching as well,
Mhm.
kind of work together. I think when you're saying that, this, because I'm a scalper, so I only go for 2 to 3 ticks. So if, I think you're saying about if a buyer has been, let's, for example, just it's a breakout, it's buying at the bottom of the range and break out the downside, they would hit the stop losses, right?
Mhm.
Stop
Yeah.
losses would be hit. And before you actually taught about that, and even though it's common sense, for me, it's something new, understanding. Uh, I didn't really quite get it,
Yeah.
and I thought I'm just seeing numbers. And so in the past, if I buy at the bottom of the range and it breaks down,
Mhm.
I would not get out. I would just hold on and being in a hopeful mode.
Yeah.
Now with that understanding, I know that I have to get out, whether it's
Yeah.
2 ticks, 3 ticks, or 4 ticks lost. I have to get out.
Yeah.
So I think going back to the videos, I think helped me a lot to get more understanding
Yeah.
of the market behavior.
But you don't think there was like there wasn't something that you kind of missed in the video and then didn't go back to? You did keep going back to them.
Uh, it's come again, say it again. Sorry.
So you did keep going back to the videos. It wasn't like you went through some videos and then started. You did actually keep studying the
Oh
same
yeah,
materials. Okay, that's good. That's good.
absolutely. Yeah, yep.
So how
Not more
did
materials, just the same materials. Yep.
yeah the
Mhm.
same materials? Because yeah,
Yep.
obviously with there's a couple of things that I see. If you haven't got the confidence in the technique, it's very difficult to stick with it.
Exactly.
Um, if also you don't take into account the market changes, it's also very difficult to stick to it because you see something stop working
Right.
and you don't know what to do. So once you've got all the technique and once you had the confidence in the techniques, how did you actually get past the fact that sometimes you're just not pressing buy and sell when you know you should, or you're pressing it when you shouldn't? What was the process of getting through it?
Uh, that is, I, th- I think it's a process, really. I think it's a matter of just, watching the screen every day. And then, you know, let me go back, because I record all my trades daily, and I will
Mhm.
review it on a
Yeah.
daily basis. And so I was able to slow things down, look at the setup that I missed or that I did well, or that, or things that I did stupidly.
Mhm.
And so I think that builds confidence over time.
Mhm.
And so I was able to actually see some pattern over and over again. And I would just try it, right? The more I try and the more I find out whether it works or not.
Mhm.
And so that helped me over the course of the 2 years that I haven't been inconsistent.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think that staying on plan is the last sort of key for me to actually be profitable and consistent,
Mhm.
to be honest.
So
So,
what would a typical? Because I'm going to try and pull this out of you. I
yeah.
haven't got one yet. If you had to like look at different types of off-plan trades, how many
Mhm.
different types of off-plan trade would you have?
Oh, I have quite a bit. I think I tried to have so many plans, um, so many strategies in my plan,
Yeah.
that I finally, after you said, you know what, you have to put a box around it,
Yeah.
and I thought, you know what, let me go back and analyze what I did well and did not do
Mhm.
well through my stats and journalistics.
Yeah.
And I actually took out, for example, breakout traits.
Yeah.
I failed 8 out of 10. So I said,
Wow.
you know what? Yeah.
And
And I would
we'd pay you to do that live and fade you.
yeah. So Oh, yeah, right. uh, but anyway, I just took out everything that I don't feel comfortable, and I stay with just two plays right now.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but that point wasn't a break. If breakout trades were, were part of your plan at that point, it's not really an off-plan trade, is it? Because it was part of your plan.
It was sort of, because it was part of the plan, but when the breakout, for example, didn't happen, I didn't get out.
Okay.
Then I get caught in the reversal. Then it becomes an off plan, right?
Yeah. So that's, and so when you failed to get out, was that so you failed to get out? Is that trades that went your way a bit at first, or is it just trades you got into and they went against you, and just hope kicked in?
Sometimes sometimes it goes my way a little bit. Sometimes it goes straight to full reversal. I mean, it's I couldn't really pinpoint to a same pattern over and over again, but it's just I think the off plan part is that I didn't get out, basically.
Okay, so there were breakouts that you couldn't get out. What about, okay, so that's one type of breakout trade you couldn't get out. Were there any trades that you got into that you shouldn't have gone into in the first place?
Yeah, of course. If it's a range play, for example, I see a pattern in the middle of the range. Let's say I see a buy, and then I would go with it, and it works, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't. So that, to me, more like a 50-50. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I said, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to do that anymore.
But that was a rule. Again, that's not, if you've got a trade where it's on your playbook, even though it's not working. So was that a trade you had in your rule set, or just something that was in your head that you thought might work that you kept doing over and over again?
Yes, I think it's just in my head. I was able to read it, but then, I see like I said, a good buy. But then the buyers got overwhelmed by the sellers, for example, and I froze, right?
Yeah.
And that's, and then I wouldn't get out until the bottom of the range, for example. So, yeah.
So it's so that's one of the things when people start order flow, it's they can see stuff in the markets that they couldn't see before. Yep. And then they use it as, we call it the one rule trading plan. Well, I can see some absorption, or I can see a lot of volume, and boom, that's it. That's all you need. So it's like, is that it? It's like a bit of overexcitement about order flow. Would that be a fair explanation?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So we've got holding, fear of missing out. We've got getting into stuff that's flimsy in terms of rationale. Okay, so another one. What other types? Did you ever get caught up in a market that was one way and thought it was going to go forever and you're missing out?
Absolutely. I think the trending market has always been an issue for me, because I would be I'm good at ranging, spotting ranges, or the top of the range, bottom of the range. But in a trending market with news, I've had a tough time to actually understand that volume would be different, right?
Yeah.
So what looks like a reversal is not really a reversal, or it is a reversal, but then the buyers are overwhelming the sellers, and I would keep shorting, and that turned into a nightmare, basically. And that's how I lost some of my accounts because of that. Yeah.
And one of the interesting things about what you're saying, I get a lot of people who, when they have this issue, they don't know. They're like, they can't somewhere did it. You've rationalized, not rationalized or given an excuse. You seem to have rationalized the behaviors you've talked about so far as I've done it because this, and this. Is that like a personality trait of yours, or because it's not? It's slightly unusual to have somebody say, "Well, I did this, and this, and this is what was wrong." A lot of people that go off plan are doing it kind of unconsciously. So let's just do another show of hands. For guys who've gone off plan, can you usually explain why you went off plan afterwards, or is it like afterwards you're scratching your head? So we've got a yes. Okay. So everybody can, okay. So this is normal. Right. Now, realizing maybe I had no plan. I think, Yeah, I think some people is seduced by the tape. Mandeep, you should be a writer. Seduced by the tape. I like that. I'm looking for a copywriter, Mandeep. I think you're the man. Realizing maybe I had no plan. Okay, so now don't feel you have to give this answer in one chunk.
Yeah.
But like, how did you get past it? You don't have to get it all in one chunk, but like think about like over time as you managed to eradicate the problem, because it wasn't an overnight thing. How do you see that you got past this issue?
Yeah, I think I would come back to the three M's there: the mechanics, the money management, the mindset. For me, those have been really helpful. I'm the kind of person who needs to, like you said, rationalize things. I think I need to actually have an organization in my mind so that I know what I need to learn and what I need to, the challenges that I need to overcome. So going back to that, three things, I actually kind of study all my, on a daily basis, all the traits that I've taken. I want to know whether, do I really know or understand what each play is? Because I find that if I don't understand it, then I don't know the reason why I should exit the trade. And I think that has been part of the issue in my journey, is that I didn't know why I have to exit when I'm losing. Yeah. And so that webinar, when you were talking about common sense, kind of, get me to think about that. Yeah. And so, like I said, if I'm buying at the bottom of the range and the buyers have been overwhelmed by the sellers, there's no point for me to stay in the trade. And I think my brain caught up with that. And it's easier for me to stay with the plan and exit without wondering whether is it going to come back, Yeah. And so once I get the mechanics, it's a lot easier for me to get to staying with the plan. And that's why I'm staying with just a couple of plays that I truly understand. And it's helping, really.
Because I don't, because you didn't really need to learn that much about the mechanics of the markets when we met. So I can see mechanics being some of it. But what about like the irrational trades where you just see the market moving and you almost can't resist? What stop those? And for the same reason, it's fine. Sorry.
Oh yeah. I really think it's when before you brought up about staying with the plan. I think you told me to actually simplify my plans. Yeah. And so to be honest, having you on the other side and checking in with you from time to time kind of get me to do that and have the motivation to report back to you in a way, Yeah. And so I would simplify the plan, and I want to just stay with that, and it's easier to actually stay with this, the simpler plans, because now all I see is just one page, in front of me, and over time, for some reason, patience start to build up. And so if I see a trade in the middle of the range, I could just, for some reason, my brain could say, nope, that's not the plan. Yeah. Stay out of it.
But I'm just some guy on the internet. So if you're married to complex plans, and then some guy on the internet says, "Oh, make that simpler," why would that help? Do you know what I mean? It's like, why would you believe that if you'd had all this complexity in it? Why would you believe that simplicity might help? Because I think it is something that people have a problem letting go of a lot of complexity.
I really think it depends on each person, but for me personally, I've always believed having a mentor or coach is a good thing. I've told you that I play table tennis competitively, and I have a coach. Yeah. And I seek for that coach because I want to be better. I want him to show me what's wrong with me and some of the techniques. And I would take his word 100%. Yeah. And so when we have this session, I actually took your word 100%. I said, you've spent the time, I would want to do, something with it. And so I told myself, why not? Why not try it and see if it works? And it works. So.
Yeah. Now, just at this point, if you all think there's a service and like some service being pumped, I like to just keep in touch. Basically, when I meet traders, every now and again, I'll just take someone under my wing because I enjoy it, and it entertains me in a way, and I like doing it. And like Marco, and he's a cool guy, and he's easy to talk to. So I didn't charge for any of this, and that probably makes it a little bit easier to follow advice. But I was mentored as well myself, and one of the things my mentor says, he says you have to. Well, and they were dead serious at the start of mentoring. He says there's a couple of things you're gonna have to do, and I'm like, what? He says, first of all, you got to help other people. He says, if I help you, I expect you to help other people. Second thing he said, you've got to give to charity. He says, if you make more money because of my advice, you need to give money to charity. And I'm not saying that Marco has to do that. But what I'm saying is he probably, because he wasn't paying for it, it probably made it a little bit easier to stick with. Yeah. But it sounds like you'd say, yeah, it sounds like, that part of it is maybe a part of it that was, but also if he's been mentored before and saw some value in it, that probably helped, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Was there ever a time because when I had off-plan reasons, one of the things that helped me get past it was losing money. Yeah. And the funny thing is I remember walking into I started going to casinos, and I remember walking into a casino in Singapore, and it's a terribly dull casino in Singapore.
MBS.
I can't remember what it's called. It was the one by the Universal Studios.
The Marina Bay, yeah.
And it's terribly dull. But like I used to like playing blackjack, and I walked up to the blackjack table, and it was like I hadn't been to a casino since I started really trading. And I went up to the blackjack table. I literally couldn't place a bet. I just couldn't go up to it because I knew that I would, if I stood there long enough, I would lose money. And that was like, wow, trading has spoilt that. But I used to enjoy this. Trading has killed it. Yeah. But I don't see many people that get really impacted by losing money or just the amount of time it takes to work through it. So how did the time or the money impact you at all?
Oh, absolutely. I really think losing money is the best teacher ever. Yeah. Because I've lost quite a bit of money, and I would beat myself up, but I would go back and study again why I did the things I did. And so, after losing a few accounts, I mean, it would come to a point where I tell myself, this is stupid. This is stupid. And the saving grace is that I have a full-time job. So it helps a little bit with the anxiety, right? So I before, like last year, I was trying to actually become a full-time trader. And I thought, you know what, if I'm successful, I'm going to become a full-time trader. But I think that put a lot of pressure on myself. And so I thought, you know what, let's just forget about that and just trade for the love of it, know. And I think that relaxed me a lot. And so I was able to to actually take trading and tell myself, hey, if it's going to take 2 years, so it's going to take 2 years. That's fine. I don't hate my job. I love my job. So it's like, well, I can trade in the morning. If I can make extra money, that's great. So that really helps, of course.
Now, I know you just got past this problem, and it might be an unfair question. Could you see yourself slipping back to the way you were before with the off-plan trades?
Absolutely. I think there's always the possibility, right? But I reckon that I would be able to recognize it easier and snap out of it a little bit quicker, And then, of course, like anything else, I think the longer I stay disciplined, the easier it gets, And like I said, I've discovered even this week, for example, I have the patience to not trade at all if I don't see the action that I wanted to see, and I just close my monitor and get ready to go to work. Yeah. So I've never been able to do that before in the past.
Okay. And why could you do it now?
I think it's understanding. It's more understanding about the market behavior as well, what I'm looking for, a simple plan, right? And I think to me, it's for some reason my brain just says, hey, it's not worth it. Why risk it?
Now, if I said, go on, sorry, carry on.
Oh, I was going to say that some of the wins that I had, from the previous weeks show me that I don't have to trade every day to get to the target, basically. So,
Yeah.
so to speak. Yeah.
Now, if I asked you the same question in a year's time, if I said to you in a year's time, we got you back and through, and I said in a year's time, everything goes smooth as we expect in over the next 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to you in 12 months' time, could you see yourself slipping back to that? What would the answer you'd give me in 12 months' time be?
I think it would be more difficult to slip back, especially after having, 12 months from now, looking back, if it's 12 months of good trading, I would, I think the only thing that would actually nullify that would be greed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Trading too big. Mm-hmm. I can see that. But other than that, I don't think it would be possible, really.
Yeah. Okay. Now, apart from the imminent threat of me flying out to Oregon and slapping you violently around the face and neck, what other things do you think helped, this process of getting through this, that we didn't discuss already?
You told me when you brought up the subject about staying on plan. Mm-hmm. You told me to actually go back to all my trades and tag it, whether it's plan or on plan or off plan. And I did that in journalistics. And and ever since then, I haven't really missed a day of, except for today, probably just tagging it. And so I think I'm going to continue with that. And I think that helps to form a good habit. Yeah. So that's one of them for sure.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's just reviewing my trade every day, knowing what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah. Oh, and what are your thoughts on what other people? If you met somebody, if you met somebody at a party and you said you traded and they didn't immediately run away, which is rare in my. I've never been in that situation actually. Well, apart from networking events in Singapore in the financial district. But if you met somebody and then they, you talked to them and they were kind of like 2 or 3 years in, but struggling to stay on plan. What are your thoughts? What would you say to them, or what are your thoughts on why they would be having the problem? How would you help them?
I would go back to the 3Ms again. To me, I'll probably help them look at whether they understand what their mechanics are of trading, right? Whether they understand that. Yeah. Because without that, then there's no point of talking about other things. And then if it's solid, then I would probably just go through what you have gone through with me. To be honest, simplify the plan and stay with it and keep track of your trades.
Yeah. So obviously we'll give people. So I'm going to say with what I did with Marco, there was no plan from my perspective. When I've been mentored, the whole process was completely new to me. And so when I meet someone like Marco, I'm just looking at what he's doing, listening to him and trying to figure out what he's going wrong. And then trying to just give him different ways. And I know there's different ways that you can kind of nudge people. Right. And I just tried to nudge him in a particular direction, but I wouldn't say I don't sit here with a book. Okay. Problem 346.D. And here's the answer. It wasn't like that. It's just like sometimes and you guys could probably do this. There's probably a lot of people in here that can't stick to their plan that could help someone else through it, but they can't do it themselves. So there wasn't a big plan. So so obviously one of the things was simplifying your decision-making. And you talk about the 3Ms, you've talked about mechanics. So basically a bit of it is like, understanding the mechanics of the market, making simpler decisions. Yeah. When I talk to people about making simpler decisions, one of the ways I frame it is like, if you've got like 50 decision points, it's very, very difficult to make a consistent decision. Yeah. But it takes a leap of faith to simplify it. Right. Yeah. What are there any other things that might seem a bit less significant that helped apart from kind of this mechanic stuff?
Money management. I actually look at how much drawdown I have and making sure that I would be trading the right size so that I'm comfortable taking a loss. Yeah. Because, it's a probability game. And so if I trade too big and I find that I would be trading in fear, and that's one of the reasons I wouldn't want to get out. Right.
Mhm.
I think that's a huge reason as well.
Yeah.
For not getting out. But having the right size helps me a lot in just taking a loss and feel comfortable with it. And that's another huge thing there for me.
Yeah.
So it has been good with trading the right size. So
What? Yeah. And again, I'm going to keep nudging. Why would you not trade the right size? It seems like such an obvious thing, right?
greed, Pete.
Greed. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
works well.
Yeah. Right. It's just, or I could start with the right size, but then when part of the not understanding mechanics, when it's going against me, and then I'm in hope mode, then I would double down, right, and then triple down, and then after that, it's just game over. I wouldn't want to get out. Yeah,
but you can't afford to, can you?
Yeah, can.
But it's that sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's an odd thing. Right. What I'd like to do, if somebody wants to ask a question, they can do so by typing it in. They can do so by raising their hand and just getting on the mic. There will be a link to this afterwards. But if you've got any comments or questions, now's the time to type them in. But just do it in the chat box. Don't worry about the question and answer box. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Mandeep is asking, how do you classify your trades? Like, so you've got trade types, right? And then, and maybe talk about putting a box around them. What that means from your perspective.
Yeah. So I only trade. So classify them as either range or pullback trades, and that's how I tag my trades in Journalitics.
Okay. So how do you put box? So I've got this thing I like to say, put a box around it, which is to prevent you from being too flexible. So how do you, what's from your perspective, what does it mean to put a box around it?
I literally put a box in my plan. But within that box, I have 4 things. I have what I'm looking for, basically, or the market behavior for each play, the anticipated follow through, stop loss, and target. Those are the 4 things that I have in my box. And
they're sacrosanct. You can't breach those.
What was that? I'm sorry.
And you can't breach those rules.
Yes, that's sacred. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow, a lot of questions there. Good. Am I going to send a link to the webinar? Yeah, I just answered that. Do you only trade the bonds?
Yes, just the bonds.
Okay. Average number of trades per session?
So I only trade, now I'm down to just trading 1 hour a day. And sometimes I would have 1 trade or no trade. It could be 5 trades, depending on the day.
Yeah. And how did you settle on interest rates?
How did I settle?
How did you settle on bonds? How did you decide which products to trade?
Thanks to Mr. Grady, actually. And that's how I started. That's the only thing I know about futures. I came from stocks and options, and so I didn't know anything about futures until I saw Grady's videos. Okay,
and that's quite unusual. So there's a lot of people I'm sure there's a lot of people here that will openly admit that they're trying a different technique every few weeks, and so that's a little bit unusual, obviously. What are your future plans with this? You scale up, you're going to go full time. I know you got some funding stuff going on.
Yeah. No particular plan so far. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. I'm just going to, stay trading with the plan for the next year and see where I go from there.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
This is another good question from Mandeep. And how do you classify your performance during the trades? Obviously, you're on plan. How do you classify like a good trade, or maybe I broke a little bit of a rule there? I mean, how do you do that?
If you remember, Pete, I started with tagging it as A, B, C, or F for fail, right?
Yep.
And then when you say, simplify it, and I did, whether it's plan or off plan right now. Yeah. So if I'm outside the box, it's off plan.
Yeah. So a
So,
trade's a trade. There's not
yep,
particularly.
trade is trade. Yep.
Okay. And Paul's asking, do you use any charts or do you just use the DOM? And is there anything you do pre-market?
The big question. So I use charts to get the sort of, like borrowing Pete's lingo, line in the sand. So overnight low, overnight high, open, and then yesterday's high and yesterday's low, and then I just close it after that.
Yeah.
Just dome, pure dome scalping.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I love the way you say that because I get that reaction a lot. People actually, I talk to people and say, Pete, I'm still using charts, and I'm like, well, that's okay. You don't have to not use charts because of me. I've sometimes picked up a slightly unfair reputation for not, because maybe we did a video training without charts, but there's plenty of videos with charts. So I've got this reputation for, like, I don't know, I must have been angry with somebody for using charts at some point. Yeah, it's like, it's like I haven't done my homework. I've used a chart.
Yeah.
So to me, as long as you use stuff consistently, it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
It's quite funny. So someone's asking, have you got any advice, somebody trading the NASDAQ off the dump?
Oh, I know nothing about NASDAQ, to be honest. I tried trading the ES, and it's possible. It's just different style, right? With treasuries, I could pinpoint where I can get in, and I know that if it passed 3 or 4 ticks, it's, I'm wrong. With the ES, I find that it's harder to do that. But of course, there's a way to do it. I know of people that do, that use Dome. So yeah,
it's not your forte. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what makes you stop trading in a day? Is it profit or opportunity or a mixture? Or apart from having to go to work?
Yeah. I used to just stop trading after I have one winning trade, right? Whether it's 2 ticks or 4 ticks. And I realized, you know what, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Because then I have this mentality where it's just wrong. Then if on a third day, if I have a losing trade, then I have to make up for it. And then I would do stupid stuff. So I finally get to a point where I understand that it's just one trade is a string, is a part of an endless string of trades. So I just keep on trading until 7 o'clock hits.
Yeah.
And I close whether I lose or not.
Yeah. And it's funny that, because every time, because I've been seeing this, lately, that, what it is, you get older and wiser and you start to see patterns that you didn't see before. One of the things I see is, like, sometimes people tell me stuff and I'm like, ooh, that's not a good situation to be in. Like Marco, you were in this situation recently where you've got like 2 evaluation accounts that are both 2 ticks away from a live account.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I said, and my advice to him was, you should go long on one and short the other. Because it just seemed to me there's so much riding on that next 2 ticks that you use almost a guaranteed fail. Now, you didn't do that, and you got both of them into winning, which is great. Yeah. But I keep noticing, and I would like, maybe I wouldn't have thought of that. If you said to me, write down a list of scenarios where you're creating an unrealistic pressure. One of them is being on a year sabbatical and getting past 6 months. All of a sudden, you're on the downside. Another one is that situation you're in, and there's these little psychological. I don't like to say psychological actually, because I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. But there's these, sometimes it's like stuff like that. You can put pressure on yourself without realizing it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, and there's extremes of that. I remember somebody saying that he was going to run out of money in 6 months' time and he needed to trade. And it's like, wow, that's
tough.
That reason is probably the reason you'll never be able to.
Right.
And I think it's interesting, these things. I wish I could actually write down like a definition of how to tell a particular scenario or a particular event or expectation that would trigger this pressure, but I can't. I can kind of recognize them in hindsight. But it's you're absolutely right that if you give yourself one trade a day, then that trade becomes too important.
So important. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure.
Now, it is, but it's not necessarily obvious at the time, is it?
Yeah. Oh, it's not. It wasn't at all.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I look back, I like a trading day where I would have a 1 or 2 losing trades. I like that. And then be able to recover or be able to actually exit.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a pat on the back, really. So
yeah, I mean, it's like I talked to Alex and at Axia, and one of the things they look for in a trader is they look, well, two things that he's mentioned to me that kind of gives them the idea that somebody might be in it for the long term. One is being able to come back after a losing day, which you just talked about, and sometimes, and then the other one is being able to make more money when there's more opportunity.
Yeah.
And I've said for a long time, my best days were always days where I lost the first trade. Because I'd come in and I thought, I'm going to sit down and make some money out of the markets. And I just so confident they get in the market and go, slap me right in the face. Okay, yeah, you're right, Mr. Market. I will take it seriously today. And those are my best days when I just, okay, this the reality slap. Basically. Yeah. Now, time off. Do you take time off? Like if it hasn't been working for a while, have you called it quits for a couple of weeks and came back? What's
time off from trading, you said?
Yes, from trading.
I haven't, unless I'm traveling back to Indonesia. I haven't actually.
Yeah.
Been a vicious cycle, to be honest.
Yeah. Now we know you're on evaluations just going to live. What's your experience with sim trading? Someone said you sim trade to test your plan. What's your experience with sim trading, and what value do you think you've had from it? And would you do it again for new setup?
Yeah. I've done both live and sim trading. I've passed the gauntlet before. The pressure is different. I can tell you that. I think with the sim trading, if it's not on evaluation, I think it's okay just to test certain things, but I think an evaluation is probably, to be honest, one of the better way to go about it, because then there's still some pressure, but it's not your own money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you pay for a little bit, and I find that it's good for my mentality, a mental state, I should say, and it's less pressure, to be honest, because with my own money, I find that I would actually hold on to losing trades until I lose it, lose the account. And I told my wife, I said, you know what, this is silly. I mean, I work every day and then I'm just wasting it on a single trade. This is crazy, Yeah. And so I decided that, okay, I'm just going to go with the evaluation. I'm going to use other people's money, and I find that it's easier, at least personally. But eventually, I mean, trading live with my own account is probably an ideal thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think trading other people's, but like we know, because what we're looking now is as he goes to the live, he's gone out the evaluations, goes live. It's a different set of pressures, and it's bound to kind of set you back a little bit. So what did you first spot in the market to begin to formulate your plan?
Say it again, Pete.
So I know you talk about using John stuff. The question is, what did you first spot in the market to begin to formulate your plan? Now I know you got something from John. I presume at some point, so that is kind of how you formulated your plan. But do you feel that what you're doing now is exactly what Jan taught, or did it change?
No, it hasn't changed, to be honest. It's just with a different level of understanding. What did I spot? I put together a plan, and that plan grows into an ebook, right? Yeah. I would have this, 50-page plan, and like you said, it's too complicated that I couldn't even follow it closely. And so and now it's just, a 2-page document that I can see every day. And it's still John's stuff, combined with your stuff, really, to be honest. Yeah. I was telling a trader the other day that if I have to choose, if I could go back and redo my journey again, I would have followed your video first, from that jigsaw the basic and the basic and the advanced courses, and then I would go to John's after that, because I went reversed. I went with John's first, and then went back to the jigsaw courses and did that. So
yeah, I mean, and again, I love John's stuff, but I've got this kind of super skill that is I can talk down. I can talk a topic down to the level even a CEO can understand it.
Yeah.
Right. So I can dump something down that much. And that's kind of my superpower with this stuff, is like trying to dumb it down a little bit, because you can, like, with software, you're talking to nerds all the time.
Yeah.
When you come to talk to the guy at the top, you got to really simplify it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so you know, that's quite we've helped in that way a fair amount, and people here have got access to that stuff as well. Now, do you have any sort of risk reward parameter to guide your plan? So
well, I know now that I have my worst day would be, of course, a blown up account, but my normal worst day would be about 7 to 8 ticks down.
Yeah.
So as far as risk to reward, I don't actually. I just there is, I should say, 2 ticks on the downside to 3 ticks, and then reward would be at least 1. You know, whatever the market gives me.
Well, are you looking at 1 for 1 mostly and a win rate, or are you looking generally for more? Like,
you know, it's hard to tell really, because I think with scalping, a lot of times I could get a break even as well, but my maximum would be 2 to 3 ticks on the downside. But it's seldom, because if the market is not fast, I could get out with a break even or 1 tick, well, at least 1 tick stop loss. So
it's more about so in that situation, it's more about looking at the stats that you output as a basis, you know, from those observations, right?
Correct.
So and that's all basically what I'm trying to say there, guys, is like, if he's working his way out of a position, it's not really about, I'm going to get out of this. It's like, oh, it's not really going to plan, I'm going to get out at break even. And then it's not really about risk reward, because you're not always hitting your risk.
Exactly.
It's like an emergency risk. And then it's how good can I get at managing my way out, right?
Exactly. Yep. Correct.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Any other questions? Because I think we're at the end, and believe it or not, we've nearly gone an hour.
Oh, wow. That's long. That's fast.
It does go quick. So I don't think we've got any more questions, which is great. I think there's been some great questions. It is, you know, if people are looking for this is one thing that will make the difference forever, it isn't just one thing. It is a little bit different for everybody, but just watch it a few times if you're having this problem. And, you know, we can always do a follow-up session where we go through a few other people's issues. But I would like to thank you all for attending. Marco, thank you. And it was good. I'm glad we did it. And I'm glad we did it right, you know, at this particular time as well. But thank you. And thank you all for coming. Any final words, sir?
No, just good luck to everyone. Be patient.
Yeah, that's great. And so thank you all, and I'll pop a recording up later today. It is 4:30 a.m. here. I managed to do this without coffee today, so I'm actually going to be able to get back to bed after this. So thank you all, and we'll do another one next month.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.